Namaskar. Administrative law is the part of public law. Administrative law is a very important subject in while studying LLB, LLM. At the same time, it is important for the all administrative services also. It has been seen throughout the administrative services, administrative law has been important part. And among the administrative services, ESIC is one of them. In ESIC, operational part is upon the SSOs, Social Security Officers. So Social Security Officers, they get recruited, the recruitment process is different, selection process is different. After recruitment, when they join the ESIC, they are supposed to clear SSO probation clearance exam. And for that, fortunately, the syllabus is little bit exhaustive. Time is very short, but we'll try to cover up the whole syllabus in such a manner so that you can understand it easily in a one go or two, and you can reproduce in the examination hall so that you can pass the exam with the flying colors. So we'll start from administrative law, and then one by one we'll be changing the chapters depending upon the priority of the subject. You are aware that third paper consists of administrative law and principle of management. 50 marks is for administrative law and 50 marks is for principle of management. And these both papers are very highly marks fetching. We can expect more than 90% in administrative law and principle of management. Trend says that paper clearance, one paper, second paper, third paper, is separately result is declared. If one paper is missing, then also first paper, second paper cleared, result will be out for that paper. And next time, the person who could not clear, he will be given chance to appear for that particular paper which he could not pass. So nothing to worry. One thing I will assure, today onwards, please put up little bit more seriousness for the exam, and you will clear this exam without any worry. So let us start administrative law. So administrative law will start, and first of all we'll come to know the introduction of the administrative law. As we all are aware that there are three organs of the government, particularly in India. When we learn administrative law in respect to India, so there are three organs of the government. Number one is legislature, number two is executive, and number three is judiciary. Legislatures consists of MPs, MLAs, Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, Vidhan Sabha, Vidhan Parishad, like that, and they are responsible for legislating new laws, amendment of existing laws, repealing of existing laws. So law making power is given to legislatures. Now whatever law is made, that needs some enforcement. That law should come into the motion. Then only the purpose of the law will be fulfilled. And for that, executives are there. And whatever legislators are making the laws, and whatever executives are putting it into the motion, means making the execution of the law, the judiciary control over the legislature and executive is required. In the governance, nobody is having superficial power. Legislature can frame the law, that is some within the given power. Executive will execute the legislated law within their power. And if legislature or executive exceeds their power, then judiciary comes into the picture. So primarily legislatures, as I told, it consists of MPs and MLAs, and they make the laws. Head of executive in India is president, but the function is executed by the prime minister. So the prime minister through president is the executive head, parliament is the legislative head, and Supreme Court is the judiciary head. So all three organs are there, and all three organs we have to understand some control. We will find some control over each and other. Here in administrative law, we will see the control of judiciary over the executive. We are here not concerned with the legislatures. The main object of administrative law is to establish peace and to ensure social security by determining the organization, powers and duties of administrative authorities. For execution of certain acts, administrative authorities has been given enormous power. Some discretionary powers are given. So they should not cross the limits. They should not misutilize so that the affected persons their interests are getting affected. So that is why there is judicial control over the executive action. So one by one we will study it. So when we go into the deep, we have to understand the definition of the administrative law. There are so many philosophers, they have given the definition of administrative law. Best one is given by Ivor Jennings. What he says, administrative law is the law which determines the organization, powers, duties of administrative authorities. So in a nutshell, administrative law can be divided into three parts. Administrative law determines the organization, how the organization will be set up. Then after that, the power of the organization and their authorities. And those who are having power, certainly they will be having some duties also, reciprocal duties also. So duties of the administrative authorities. So when they perform their duties, when they execute their powers in that organization, all these things are studied in administrative law. The very object of administrative law is to control and regulate the administrative authority so that their discretionary power may not be turned into arbitrary power. Try to understand. Many more discretionary power has been given to the authorities just to execute the law, not to abuse the law. If any administrative authority is abusing the law, he is responsible, and for that administrative law comes into the motion. The very purpose of the administrative law is to control and regulate the administrative authority. Otherwise, the administrative authority will become sovereign. So everywhere wherever some discretionary power is there, there has to be some control. So it's administrative authority, control over the administrative authority, so that their powers are not going beyond their duties. Now, when we talk about the growth and development of the administrative law in India, we know that earlier the government action has been changing. Government philosophy has been changing. Earlier government was following the principle of laissez-faire. Laissez-faire means free government, no control, no welfare, no justice. You take your own decision. Government is restricted to only some areas. So that earlier it was laissez-faire philosophy. Government from laissez-faire to now social welfare state. When we talk to social welfare state, government functions increases enormously, and when government functions increases enormously, certainly there may be some chances of abuse of that powers also. To control that powers, administrative law is required. And from when this philosophy shifted from laissez-faire to social welfare state, it resulted in expansion of government functions. So government functions increasing, so chances of abuse may also increase. So there has to be some proper administration of justice, and for that administrative law came into action. So we'll come to know, while constitutional law was in existence, while civil court was in existence, while criminal courts was in existence, what was the need for growth of the administrative law, that we'll understand. Number one is judicial system in India is inadequate. So many datas, monthly basis datas are published in newspaper that these many lakhs cases are pending in this session court, this high court, this supreme court, this CJM court. So pendency of cases are more. That means waiting period for the justice is very high. So there was a need to find out some alternative. Then present judiciary system is very expensive. As we know, when we move to civil court or criminal court, we go through the lawyers. Lawyers are professionals, and as per their status, they charges. And generally, it becomes very expensive for the person who is going to bear it. So there has to be some other way also. Then to delegate some powers to administrative authorities. The administrative law came into picture so that some powers can be delegated to administrative authorities also. Centralization of power doesn't work in the administrative law. There has to be decentralization, delegation of power, so that the power shifted from top to bottom and execution takes place in a proper manner. So for that purpose also administrative law came into picture. Then flexible administrative function. We know many times we just appear before the authority, they hear our things and they take the decision. Very flexible. If you go to court, there is so many process. It will take years together. So here, just for any administrative action, if some junior officer is not following the rules, the aggrieved person can go to the senior officer. Senior officer will listen the verbally or written, and he will take the decision. So that is why administrative law is very flexible. Administrative tribunals are not bound by rules and evidence and procedures. See, so many administrative laws, CATs, AFCATs, like that, tribunals are there. So administrative tribunals has been given power. They are quasi judiciary. That means certain times they function like administration, certain times they function like judiciary. It's a mix of administration and judiciary. So they are not bound by the civil procedure code, criminal procedure code, and law of evidence. So when they are not bound by all these procedural codes, that means they cut short the timing and their procedure becomes simpler. Then administrative law, it is seen that during the SPD period, emergency cases, it works as a very SPD measure. In emergency cases, if some action has to be taken by authority, they can move up to suspension, revocation of suspension, cancellation, removal. There are so many processes and they can move on that. Then to empower administrative authority to take effective steps. Certainly, once some organization is there, some function is there, so we have to give some power and some duties, and for this purpose also administrative law came into picture. Now some questions arises that many functions are there in the constitutional law. It's correct. It is said that administrative law has derived from the constitutional law itself. It is just very thinner difference between the constitutional law and administrative law. Earlier, these both were studied in constitutional law. Slowly, administrative law got separated from the constitutional law, but it is not totally separate. So we'll try to understand what is the difference between constitutional law and what is the difference between administrative law. Constitutional law deals with the structures and rules that regulate the functions. It deals with only structures and rules that regulate the functions. Whereas administrative law deals with detailed study of such functions. Number 2, organization and function of the government is dealt by constitution. How government will be formed, where government will be formed, this is dealt in the constitution. Whereas organization and function in operational, that function comes into operation, that function comes into execution in the administrative law. Then in constitutional law, all three organs of the government, legislative, executive and judiciary, all three are studied. But in administrative law, only most probably that the administrative part of the constitution is studied. Then constitutional law, the constitutional status of administration, ministers and civil servants are given in constitutional law, whereas operations and working of various departments are provided in administrative law. It's a very thin difference between administrative law and constitutional law, but slowly administrative law is getting separated from the constitutional law. Then we'll see sources of administrative law. So first source is constitutional law. Many things we are studied from the constitutional law. Second source is precedents and case laws. That means some earlier decision taken by the court that becomes rule for the next period for the similar cause. Then statutes and delegated legislations. Several statutes and delegated legislations are formed. Like I will tell you, ESIC Act. ESIC Act is a statute. It is formed basically, and that is the source of administrative law. Ordinance, yes, Article 123 empowers President of India to issue ordinance, and Article 213 empowers governor of the state to issue ordinance. So ordinance also works as a source of administrative law. Then several committees are formed, so that committees' reports are also considered as source of administrative law. Now, position in India. See, when we study the history, we will see that minus 300, minus 400, 400 BC, 500 BC, 600 BC, there was Mauryas and Gupta's dynasty. At that time, administrative law was in picture in the India. In a narrower form or expanded form, that is another issue. But administrative law was in picture in India even during Maurya's dynasty and Gupta's dynasty. Before Christ era, in India, administrative law was in picture. Several things were being taken through the administrative law. People were being governed by the administrative law. Then East India Company came and they modernized the system. So that means they modified further. And when we got the independence, then as per our choice, we modernized and expedited the existence and following of the administrative law in India. Now, what is the need of administrative law in India? We can see that because of the shifting of the philosophy from laissez-faire to social security era, expansion of activities and powers of government have raised the greatest needs for the enforcement of the rule of law and judicial review. That means the more you expand the function of the government, the more needs for the enforcement of the rule of law and judicial review required. Enforcement of rule of law is a part of natural justice, we'll understand. And judicial review is a part of constitution, that also one by one we'll study. Then for this certain statutory provisions are provided in the administrative law in addition to constitutional remedy. Constitutional remedies are already there. Article 32 is there, Article 226 is there, Article 136 is there. So constitutional remedies are there. But in addition to constitutional remedy, so many statutory provisions has been created for the facilitation of administration law in India. So whatever is coming on the name of administrative law, if you can crystallize, clear-cut crystallize answer, well and good. If you are having some doubt, please sum up all this material in the one question, in the one answer. Because question answers are expected to be 10 marks question, 6 marks question, 5 marks question. So material has to be exhaustive. So if you are not able to concentrate on particular thing, please pour the whole chapter into the question. You will get good marks. Thereafter, we'll meet in the next session. Till that, please keep on revising it and we'll meet very soon. Namaskar.